right, let's get into our next discussion now.
Yes, indeed, and it has to do with the World Bank projection that the global economic growth is likely to accelerate this year after a stronger than expected 2017. Now, this is contained in the World Bank's January 2018 Global Economic Prospect Report launched last Tuesday in Washington, D.C., United States.
Yeah, for Nigeria, the bank forecasts that the country's economic growth will edge up to at least 2.5% this year. And GDP is expected to grow by 2.8% next year and in 2018. All things being equal. That's
are all things equal? That's another question.
Now we have joining us a financial expert to discuss this, Sam Olisa. Joining us right now. Sam, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you. Now, really, when the World Bank or IMF or any of this international institutions project good year for any African country, there seems to be some kind of cheer and all of that. Now, in this case, looking at what is on ground, this year being a political year for Nigeria, what are the prospects and how happy should Nigerians be that the economy will grow by 2.5%?
Thank you very much. That brings me back to what you said earlier. In economics, we call it ceteris paribus.
Exactly.
That all other things being equal except one.
Which would be?
Yeah. So all other things being equal, the projection of the World Bank is realistic. However, looking at the fact that this is an election year, the primaries is very funny. In Nigeria, the election year starts from when we are holding primary, where political activities are. In actual fact, campaign begins with primary. So before we go to the proper, election year. So if things will be done properly, that is all other things being equal, I think we should be able to get there. Because last year, the first quarter, you remember it was negative. But because of the fact that oil price firmed up and there is stability in inflow of foreign exchange, which is the basis of Nigeria economy, we were able to get out of the negative, the recession, coming, according to World Bank, about 1% growth. And continuing doing that, you see that the oil price is still going up, it's firming up. It's firming up, and domestic demand is also strengthening. So that is the basis for the projection of World Bank, that even though averagely the sub-Saharan Africa growth rate this year is going to be about 3.1, 3.2%, but that of Nigeria will be about 2.5%, which is even better than its peers, South Africa and Kenya. That is based on the projection. So if things are done properly, if the budget is passed on time, if capital projects are implemented as it were, because that is what grows the economy. Even though there is impact of recurrent expedition on the economy, because when salaries are paid and enhances consumption, when consumption is enhanced, marginal propensity to consume is high, then the economy also grows.
But the ifs that you just mentioned now, if things are done properly, if budget is on time, if it's spot on and all of that, but with what we're seeing now,
He's very
this
unlikely.
projection might not necessarily, happen. 2.5% growth projected, but it is still predicated on the stable oil price, commodities prices, and of course investment, trade, and firm fiscal policy on the part of government. So, with all of this, how likely is it that this really will become a reality?
Ordinarily, looking at where we're coming from, that we've left the negative aspect. Nigerian economy should grow more than that this year.
More than 2.5%?
Grow more than 2.5%. But unfortunately, you see the politics going on. Budget is supposed to be passed as early as possible. And when the president presented that budget last year, the National Assembly, the euphoria was that they would pass the budget before January 1st. But I was one of the people that was skeptical, and I said it right here, that budget may not be passed until April, May. And that is what we are saying. You know, the implication of this is that the capital vote will not be released. The recurrent expenditure will not be disturbed. Don't forget that the budget can still run up till June. You know, this current budget was passed, assigned to law in June. But is the most part of it is that the recurrent is being released so that people can spend. Cost of governance is up there. But what really drives the economy is the capital aspect of it. Unfortunately, last year, less than 1 trillion was released. That is the previous, that is 2016, 2017. This current budget, which is still extended, which we are running now, I don't think we've released up to 800 billion in capital votes. So we may not attain.
So it's even less than the
yes,
2016
we may not
budget.
attain, exactly. We may not attain that growth rate. However, it is possible if things are done normally.
If things are done normally. Now, when they say there's going to be growth, there's going to be, there's the future, it looks really bright and all of that, growth of 2.5%. In Nigeria, really, who are the people to benefit from this growth? Who are those who benefit from the growth? Because the average man on the street is still there walking and hoping for the day that things are going to change for him.
When we say GDP growth, that means your net worth has increased. And when you put it per capita, that is per individual, that growth, if income is evenly distributed, if it is not skewed, unfortunately Nigeria is highly skewed, while 5% of the population controls 90% of the income. So the average man in the street may find it difficult to feel the impact of the growth. So because incomes are highly skewed. Now, if it is even, when there is growth, even 1%, everybody will feel it. But the interesting aspect of it in this situation is that the negative growth we have passed that stage. That means we have left recession, particularly in the last 4 or 5 months, where the oil price has gone up there, even above $70 per barrel.
And steady supply.
And I think in 2015 January, I predicted here that the oil price is going to go up to $90 per barrel before the end of 2018. I did that prediction, and it's coming true. Yes,
it's still looking like
right. It's still looking like
the
that.
World Bank
However, we have
saying,
to turn that to advantage. We have to ensure that politics does not interfere with the economy.
Well,
that's almost
unrealistic.
Every person in the street.
Is that possible? Is that possible to not to have politics interfere?
But let me put this in. The World Bank is saying, look, external, for sub-Saharan Africa, external and domestic risks still abound. If there's any kind of uncertainty or shaking in the US,
in America,
in Europe, yes.
Because the demand in Europe and the demand in America drives the demand in sub-Saharan Africa. For instance, when the oil price of Nigeria collapsed, that time the Maba regime was emphasizing the production of shale oil to get at corrupt African leaders. And America was buying zero from Nigeria. But now, Nigeria is selling oil to America again. If decisions there are negative, then it will also affect us. There is no doubt, there is no island in the whole world. We need each other. So you cannot deliberately put up a policy that will affect another country. It will turn around, come back to you. Right now, the production of shale oil is not profitable. So they have to bounce back to the normal, conventional oil, Nigerian crude.
And there are concerns too that there may be slowdown in China, which will still affect. So it's a global economic village.
Of course, the whole world interact economically. That is the situation.
Okay. Now, in all of this now, what will be the impact of the inflation rate? This 2018 is an interesting year because we know that when it's a political year in Nigeria, a lot of money is taken out of the system. So you have liquidity all over the place because of politics and so on. The inflation rate is high already, even though it's been coming down one way or the other. But what will the impact of liquidity and inflation have on the seeming growth?
Well, there's always, that's the role of the CBN to manage the inflation, the interest rates, and output.
Okay.
That is the role of the CBN. And if you look at the dynamics of the CBN in the last 2-3 years or so, they have been trying to battle that the inflation rate, the interest rate, and the exchange rate. I think recently, you see what determines inflation rate in Nigeria, because Nigeria is heavily dependent on importation. Let's face the fact. We are emphasizing domestic production, but you can't achieve that overnight. I think recently, because of the petrodollar that is flowing in, I think the Bureau de Change has advocated that the CBN should adjust the exchange rate, because exchange rate has effect on inflation, because we still import a lot of things. So,
in spite of all the talk about diversification.
For instance, your car, when you repair your car, the parts. You remember last year it was very, very expensive. But it's coming down a little bit, because the dollar is now available more than before, when it was 500 naira to $1. But now on the average 365, 360 to $1, so that you can see that the prices of those imported things are coming down a little bit. But it is very important, and it is pertinent to emphasize that domestic production is very key in driving an economy and driving the GDP. When we come to the oil sector, you see, it's very unfortunate that we are just exporting crude. By now, Nigeria should be refining almost 95% at home and make West Africa hub.
Exporting finished products.
You have the local value added.
Unfortunately,
that's
not
your
the
economy
case.
will not be highly susceptible to external shocks. That is the problem we have.
The World Bank, the IMF have warned against the continued population explosion, that it will scrape whatever gains that we make from improved economic growth. And of course, external borrowing is on the other hand. The government is saying, look, we're going to actually rely more on external borrowing to fund the 2018 budget. So how are we going to balance this? What kind of balancing
in my own opinion, with the recent level of oil price, if Nigeria is going to borrow at all, it should be strategic borrowing. You don't just borrow because of the entire gap. Having said that, I have a different opinion in the area of population and economy.
Okay.
The population is supposed to be
an advantage
in terms of market. Nigeria is the largest market in Africa sub-Sahara. That's why China, every country wants a presence in Nigeria. However, it will be a problem if we don't galvanize our potentials and utilize our growing population for production. That is where it will be a problem. But even if we are increasing, our training, our human capital is being trained, we can utilize, in fact, India, the best advantage is our population, because they go out, they work outside.
That's the problem. We're not training our human capital.
So our human capital, we should reorientate it. We should not be training towards white-collar job. We should be training towards technicality and production at all levels.
And entrepreneurship.
So in that, entrepreneurship. And in that case, population will not be a problem. But why the World Bank is warning? They know that we are one way. We don't train.
One-way traffic.
That our population that is supposed to be an advantage will now become a disadvantage.
Unfortunately. Samuel Issa, we'll have to say thank you very much. Samuel Issa is a financial expert, breaking it down for us this morning.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.